Tim Rusmisel has taken part in many historic campaigns for liberation of animals, environmental defense, and social justice causes. As the director of the international nonprofit organization Vital Actions, he now spends his days defending sea turtles in Nicaragua and manages international campaigns with both environmental and social justice. Tim is a 26-year vegan, woohoo, and has been an activist for over 2 decades. We are so excited he's here. Please welcome Tim. I've already forgotten it. Rusmisel. Rusmisel. Such a great name. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Hope. It's an honor to finally be able to say yes. She's asked me to speak at a few things, and I'm like lost in Nicaragua or something and never able to. So, thank you. Hope. Okay, so well, it's a privilege to speak to y'all. I really appreciate that there's some folks in here. Some of you are here on purpose because you saw what we were going to talk about, and I'm grateful for that. That's really cool. Hopefully, I'm going to give it a shot here and not let you down. I'm glad we got this because I don't do this very well. I want to be doing this action and this work, and I want to, like, I guess we have to promote it and talk about it because we need support. And like, I don't want to be here talking about it. This is hard. I'm nervous. So. But I'm going to go for it, so because it's really important, and so it's like kind of a little point there. It's not about how comfortable we are. It's not about if I love doing it or not. It's strategic, and it's been proving effective. So here I am. Yeah, so that was a fun little intro. Okay, I wanted to be more prepared for this talk than any talk I've ever done. A lot of times I don't even use notes because if any of you have met me at the table so far, you know I can get started and I will just go. And yeah, so because we're truly doing stuff, and I'm truly passionate about it, so it's very easy to speak about it. I don't have to wonder how I'm going to talk about all the great things we accomplished last year in a 20 or 30 minute talk, because like we did, and I'm going to do that, and that's easy. So I usually don't have notes, but I really wanted to be like more prepared for this than I ever have been, but my notes didn't really come together, but I've got sort of a map. I'm going to do my best to make this congruent, but just like my pacing, this talk might bounce around. And if at any point you want to like redirect me or question me or have a little bit of input, this doesn't have to be so one-sided, because that's a problem we have is kind of hierarchy and looking up to folks. Like the intro that Hope said, you know, you write these things to be impressive. For one reason or another, because I know it's kind of like marketing and it works or whatever, but the true cause is we want to share these ideas, we want to activate people, because we need to do this work. We need to protect the habitats, we need to protect animals, and we need to be kinder to each other, because all of these things are a mess right now. So we want to write something to get people to listen to us, but like, if that sounded impressive or anything, like, no, all of you could do all of that, and you might have. I don't know you, so I apologize for speaking like maybe you don't know some of this. So please, like that introduction is like, you know, whatever. It's like a thing we have to do, but y'all could do all of these things that I'm going to talk about that I did and that we've done, and that's the hope, and that's why I want to come here and talk, is because we need some more folks doing this very possible stuff. So a couple things I want to say before I talk. I've seen other activists speak, and I got super inspired, and I really appreciate. I think these are things that are super important. Before I get on to my points, I'd like to acknowledge privilege, and I'd like to definitely acknowledge the fact that I understand that I'm here at a great level, a high level of privilege, white male privilege, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak, because I know that we do need diversity, and I have a station that tends to dominate. And beside all that, Hope saw that I could do a valuable presentation and gave me a chance to talk. So I would like to just honor and acknowledge that. I do understand, and I do my best to utilize this privilege. And it's what we should all do, whatever station of privilege we have. Share that privilege. Privilege is not the enemy. It's the misdistribution of it is what the enemy is. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. I know that that doesn't write off wrongdoings that have been done by folks holding my privilege. I know that that does not automatically win all of your trust, but it has to at least be acknowledged, and I think it's really important, and so I wanted to do that. The other is, I saw this great publication online the other day, just a cool graphic, and it was honor indigenous land, but then like the on was highlighted, and that's such a beautiful, strong way to acknowledge there were cultures here before this culture. And those cultures were abused and oppressed, and we cannot refer to it in past tense because it's still happening, and it's far often ignored in situations like this when we have certain levels of privilege. So that's another thing I just wanted to just address. Again, I know addressing it does not, okay, he's a good guy, he doesn't do harm to the indigenous cultures. I'm aware, and I'm working, and I'm trying. I see you, and I'm working, and I promise that I'm using this privilege in non-oppressive and positive forms. So those aside, now let's talk environmental. And again, like I said, just touching on those does not resolve it all. I understand, and it's token acknowledgments, but it has to at least be done. So me, like she said, 26 years I've been vegan, surviving, doing okay, got some muscle mass, have about 30 years without a serious doctor visit outside of emergencies. I've broken a couple of things. And I think that's modern medicine, modern Western medicine has a wonderful place in our culture for trauma diagnosis and trauma, but haven't really been blessed with and had the privilege of like good health, and veganism it's possible, right? So that's been one of my missions. 26 years in, I've never on purpose eaten anything outside of plant-based diet. So if anybody's got a concern that it's not a long-term healthy or even mentally healthy or happy strategy, it's okay, you can do it. I'm here and I've done it, and y'all could. And I please, I would definitely have to ask that you, if you're not a vegan, you consider the options. No one's here to judge you. It's not a club. I'm not trying to find more people to eat out with. I'm not trying to like feel more accepted in a room or whatever. It's just that it addresses so many things, environmentally, socially, your own health, environmental ethics, justice ethics. So many things are addressed by what can be a simple choice. It's a radical act of you get this thing instead of this thing when you're shopping. And it's not always that easy, but it can be. And so I do want to mention that, as that's why, 26-year vegan, that's why we mention that, because it's proof. You can do it, you can keep on doing it, and we can talk to each other and support each other to make these sound and kind choices. The other things about my history, I kind of grew up in like the punk music scene. The first time I ever like started caring about the environment or social justice politics was listening to Bad Religion records and laying on the floor in my bedroom with a dictionary listening to this band. If you don't know this band, it's like these guys are now this old punk band, and they're now PhD professors at universities, and they're brilliant young dudes writing really amazing stuff about social justice and environmental crisis. They were addressing things 30 years ago that we still haven't fixed now, and the changes are so obvious and the need is so obvious. Anyhow, that's where I learned, and I'm really grateful for those roots, because in the punk culture, in the punk music scene, we do our own stuff. It's called DIY ethic, do it yourself. And we record our own stuff, we book our tours, we drive our own vans, we don't have much money, and we tour the country and do things we love, and then that turns into, when you get exposed to radical ideas, that turns into activism. And now I'm running this org, and I'm getting to speak in positions where, and we're getting attention that like large organizations get. We're a tiny organization, but I'm going to tell you about some of the things we did, and it's not tiny. But we're able to churn out these results because I have kind of that history and these roots. Like, we'll get it done. We're constantly broke. Doesn't matter. We're getting it done. And that's what I'm going to get to, is how we're strategizing with our finances and our structures for how we're building our organizations and our solutions. So that's why that's kind of an important part of my history. And so I'll just go forward a lot of years to vital actions. What I'm doing right now. I want to talk about, because I want to make sure we hit what we build, right? So we talked about strategic eco-defense without compromising social justice, and the urgency and the doability, and then some stories. I'll tell you some fun sea turtle stories. So we'll hit everything we promised. So when you saw that cool little description, you came, we're going to live up to that. So the first part of that is to talk about the urgency. I feel like I don't need to go into it too much in this crowd. It's Earth Day celebration, right? And a lot of us are from tables and organizations, and I feel like I don't need to go into that as much as I usually do. How many here are trying to use less plastics in their life, right? All of you, good. How many here are thinking about veganism? Lots of you, and like how many are thinking about our like non-renewables usage and our impact in environmental racism and social inequality and like right, all of us. I think we're all on that. So I don't need to cite all these scary statistics about the amount of plastic that's in the ocean, and I think you guys have all heard that. So I'm gonna kind of smooth over that. But a couple things I'd like to say. I feel like this is a really good point that I've been able to say in talks about the urgency, because that's one of my priorities right now. Is I want you to walk out of here a little more ready to get some shit done, because that's what we need. And so I want to think about environmental scientists, people out studying the impacts of our cultures, the impacts of our garbage, the impacts of our usage of all the non-renewables. And go to when I was this tall, and that job was, wow, modern culture is moving quick. We're doing a lot of things. We think that they're going to have heavy impact. Like we're putting a lot of carbon into the air. We think that this will do some things. Wow, everything's in plastic now. That plastic has a really long lifespan. We think it's going to end up, animals might eat it, right? So that was that job then, like a few decades ago. What's that job today? That job today is, holy shit. There's no more theories. There's no more guessing what's going on. These animals are full of plastic. The ocean has almost more plastic than life in it. We've lost 85% of the world's forests. Almost every area where there's groundwater is contaminated. There's water shortages. There's people starving. I mean, there's no more like what's going to happen. So when I talk about the urgency, like the time is now. The time was quite a while ago to do these changes. Now changes are happening quick. We see what's out in that room, and folks are in here and the lifestyles that a lot of us are living. It's inspiring, but it's not fast enough right now, and we need to work hard. And so that's why I want to talk about what I did and what our org does, and then I want to talk about maybe some ways we can look at some things differently, like words and definitions, and also the infrastructure of our movement. Because I feel like we're a family, right? We're a community here. We all want to work together for a lot of different common goals. There's nothing wrong with focusing. Doesn't mean you're discounting other struggles. There's too many things to choose from that need work. I had an awesome question at the table right now. How do you personally, within your org, focus? How do you pick what you're going to do? I'm like, well, there's personal strengths. There's not a problem in leaning towards things you like. I love the beach. I love the ocean. So a lot of my work, a lot of our projects are in places that have beautiful oceans and beaches, and I get to surf, and there's nothing wrong with that. So that's one way you focus, is like steer towards what you love and what you're motivated by, and then, but like do something you can affect change in, though. We can't be spinning our wheels. We can't be like trying and hoping that some legislation got passed in 20 years, it's going to affect this and that. We don't have time for that right now. The time for that's over. It's time for emergency response, quick action. The slow shift stuff is fine, and we should be working on it. And in the end, I actually believe that the slow shift changes, like education, potentially legislation. The system's pretty cloudy, though. But if we make some shifts there, we might see some stuff. But these slow shift changes, in the end, will create more affecting and longer-lasting results. But they take too long to get there. So we need this emergency response. So the point I was going to is the focusing. It's okay to focus. It doesn't mean that you, like, saving whales doesn't mean to hell with hungry people or children who don't have education or what all the other issues. It just means that you know where your strengths are and you focus. There's a lot of us. And a little bit from each of us is going to get this work done. We need to stop like hero worshiping people that build giant organizations that end up managing millions of dollars but become less and less effective. We need to just see us all what I say. Don't like look up to anybody. Stand next to them and see if you can help them, and then you can learn from them. Anybody who wants to become a sea turtle expert in here, raise your hand. Come see me. Let's talk. Come down to Nicaragua. I'll tell you what airport to fly into. We have a couple extra beds in our house. If you're serious, you can stay as long as you want, and I will teach you, because that's how I learned. Anybody who's doing environmental work or social justice work, if they're really serious about it, I promise they need help. We all need help. We're all underfunded, and we all need help. And so if they really want to get their goals, their achievements. If they really want to get to their achievements, they will let you help. And a lot of times you can help in exchange for volunteer and live and some food. For us, if you can commit to staying long term, we can't handle very many people, but we're growing. If you can come for a month, we'll give you a place to sleep and some food, but you're going to work. And if you slow us down, we have a policy of please enjoy your vacation, which is our kind way of saying, I think you should move on because you're slowing us down a little bit. But if you're serious, those of you that raised your hand, I'm dead serious. Let's talk. I want to make you become a sea turtle expert, and I have an idea. I'm going to come to it a little bit when I'm talking about structure and in our strategic infrastructure, and you're going to realize you can do it. So now, okay, I'm just trying to keep myself on track a little. All right. So, the urgency, right? So I think I did that well enough, right? We all get it. There's no more time to waste, and it's offensive. It's obscene that there's giant organizations wasting millions of funding dollars, and you ask them, what did you do last year? And they stutter, and they pause, and then they start talking about some theory about what might happen, and you're like, ask me what we did. I'm going to tell you. Anyway, so the urgency is there, and I hope you get it. So now, possible, right? There's a lot of us. I think the fundraising potential of like just individuals collectivizing and coming together and fundraising was proven about this Notre Dame example. Okay, I'm just not going to. I'll try not to offend anybody, but how much money was raised overnight to rebuild a church that probably has the best insurance policy in the world, and owned is a weird word, but in an institution that has more money than most world's governments? They don't need donations. But how much money did we kick in? The ultra wealthy, especially. So, 24 hours, hundreds of millions of dollars. So, but that was super frustrating. But also whoa, look at what we can do. If only we just directed it a little differently. If we have small grassroots organizations going oh man, I could do it. Give me a couple days. I'll give you the math on what we would do with $800 million. It's, oh my God. I'll tell you what we did with $64,000 last year in a minute. So as far as what we could do. But the point I'm bringing up there is there's a lot of us. There's a lot of us. So I have this project, right? It's a big project. It's going to be a lot of work. We're going to make sure that every beach in the world has about every few inches a handful of plastic garbage. Everywhere in the world. And we're going to make sure that there's even more of it floating in the ocean, and we're going to make sure that almost every sea animal has access to be able to eat some of this garbage. We're going to make sure that they're seeing it as food. And so anybody want to help with that? We got to take this plastic and get it out there. It's going to be a lot of work, right? Well, we did that. We did all that. Did anybody feel like it was hard work? Because I was doing it. I do as little of it as I can now. And there's this zero waste idea, zero waste movement, which is rad. But there's no perfect. And I heard somebody say, I'm going to get better around it. And I really like that. I'm going to get better around it. I bought bread that's in a plastic bag yesterday. Damn. But okay, I'm going to get better around it. I'm going to make sure that when I'm traveling, I have to make that choice less and less and less. And then eventually, no, it's not a competition. It's not like I have less garbage than you. It's great when folks have this jar of garbage that from a year. That's cool. But collect your garbage for a month and you're well, maybe it's this big. Spread it out. What are the 3 most occurring items in there? Replace them. Do that again the next month. Do that again the next month. In a year or so, you're going to be down to almost no plastic. We have to be doing that. Back to what I was saying. Anybody want to help me with this giant plastic distribution project where we're going to make sure that there's plastic within sight everywhere you go? We already did it. And it didn't seem like hard work. I was doing it when I was little. I'm trying to do as little of it as I can now. I just said that. So let's flip that. So now we got this shit's out there. First of all, we cut the source off. Let's stop putting it out there. Find your replacements. So find what's occurring in your trash, replace it. There's a couple zero waste table, awesome folks out here. You get your cool little kit, your bamboo stuff, your straw, your your sacks to the store, a couple things at a time. You make your shifts. It's not a huge challenge. It's not a discipline. It shouldn't be scary. Like, it's intimidating. Oh, there's a lot of plastic at my house. I don't know where I would get oatmeal. That was my biggest thing in Nicaragua. I couldn't buy oatmeal without plastic bags. I finally found somewhere I can buy it by the pound, and now I'm getting it in cotton sacks. And so my garbage is like a third of what it was because of these stupid oatmeal sacks. So anyhow, this plastic project, this is a giant project. Nobody wants to get involved in that. It sounds like too much work. But we did it, and it wasn't hard. So now we can flip it, right? Same thing can happen. We don't have to do that much work if we're all involved. There's so many of us. There's enough people to kick in $800 million overnight for a cause, I'll call it that. We could get it done. So we need to change how we're thinking. We don't need a leader creating a giant thing that we all want to pour millions of dollars into or like all volunteer and help. Hi. Thanks for coming in. No, thank you for coming in. I'll just say that again. Thanks. Anyhow, that point there is we could get it done pretty easily if we were all just doing a little bit. I'm tired. I've been doing a lot. It's not fair. Come on. Come on down. Make it easier for me. People say, oh, you're living your dream. Sea turtles, plant trees, living in Central America. Well, it's pretty cool. I get awesome experiences. I'm grateful. I'm so grateful to be able to be doing this because there's nothing else I'd rather be doing. There's nothing else I could actually see to be inspiring me right now. So here I am, and folks are supporting me. And if it's any of y'all just sitting here is supporting us, thank you. I'm grateful because I want to be doing this. But it's not my dream. People are like, oh, your dream. No. Okay, let me just make 3 points right there. Why the hell would I be dreaming of so much suffering and destruction? No, this isn't my dream. Second of all, I'm tired. This is hard work. That's not my dream. If I'm being realistic, tacos, surfing, and hammocks. That's basically my dream. But that's not what I'm doing because I do some of that. Because self-care and we can't burn ourselves out. But that's my dream. There would be nothing else. There maybe some music, but like anyway. So it's not about okay. And then the third thing we'll get to there is these actions, these things we're inspired to do. It's not about what you've always dreamed of. It's not about what you're gonna love the most. It's about what needs to be done. Please hear that. It's okay to make some sacrifices. Sacrificing is not the same as suffering. If you're suffering, please reach out. If I can do anything, please let your community help you. If you're not suffering, analyze your level of privilege, your level of comfort. Find out how much so-called strength you have, how much free time, how much financial leverage do you have, and then get to work strategizing on that and use it in the best way possible. It's not about what we're dreaming about. Sure, we have like goals, right, that are like the dream, but it's not where we're at. It's not time to do just what you love the most. It's not time to just chase your dreams. It's okay if you're a little uncomfortable. We need this work happening. I promise you're going to be okay. I love this so much. So even when it's hard. So that's the possible. I hope that's, after saying a few of those things, I hope you feel like what these folks do in these orgs and these people who've become champions of the movement or whatever, I hope you all walk out of here with like at least a few percentage points more feeling like, I could do that, and then maybe even more, I should do that, and then I will do that, and then next time you tell me I did that. So that's about the possible. And another element of the possible is sometimes when I do talks and people leave, I'm like, should I tell jokes or something? What's going on here? But that would just be punishing you guys. I was going to open with a joke about, I have to have notes because I'm like, this is not my chance to practice stand-up comedy. Tim, this is not your chance to practice stand-up comedy. Okay, so anyway, I don't know what's going on there, but we have stuff we have to do. It's cool. I won't punish you guys with jokes. So about on the possible, we promised you some stories, right? So I'm going to give you some data. Maybe we can loosen it up a little. You can ask me some questions about some of the specific work. Everyone's curious about sea turtles, and I get it. They're cool. So especially now, I'm 10 years into working with sea turtles. I'm about 2 years into talking about it. I just say that because that's an example. We live in a culture where like we want to publicize everything. We want to become famous. We want to I come from a culture of activism where, like, you didn't talk about it. I had another silly joke. My phone's over here because I wanted to keep an eye on the time, but I was also going to kind of open with, like, just in case the FBI wants to hear any of this, let me just put this right here. So, like, I came from a culture where you don't talk about what you're doing because you really didn't want that attention. But nowadays, it's like, I went to a demo, 4,000 likes. Somehow they make money doing that. So I'm deep into doing this stuff. I'm only a couple of years into talking about it and asking for help. So our organization is tiny, but we're getting stuff done. So that question I got asked about, how do you focus, how do you choose, how do you strategize? My answer to that was I analyze. First of all, I sit in some quiet space and kind of focus on what feels the most urgent to me based on what I've learned and what I've seen. What I told this person, a few things will come up for you, whether it's reforestation work or turtles or food share. So listen to those. So those are the things that are like on the surface for you. So those are what you're passionate about. So that's what I would advise. If you want to focus on something and you're like, gee, I'm overwhelmed, don't think about all of it. Actually, just try not to think about anything and see what comes up in your head. And probably a few little ideas will come in. So then you look at, what am I good at? Because you shouldn't have to become like an expert graphic designer and then you become an expert marketer and then you become like an amazing sea turtle nest recreator or whatever. If you're already good at that, you do that, right? So then we're efficient. So you focus on like what your skills are and how you could be strong to get these things done. Then you look at who's doing this stuff. And who do you feel is doing it like and achieving success and results? And like you don't look up to them, you get next to them, and you offer them. I'd like to support what you're doing. Will you show me how you do it? Because I'd like to do it because we need more of whatever it is. And hopefully they'll be like, hell yeah, let's go. And then there you go. So again, so I just want to talk about like some of the stuff we've done, and it's possible because of, like I said, those punk roots where I can be down to my last $20 and I'm not really panicking because I can get by. There's this in this country. There's so much food in the dumpsters. It's crazy, and it's good food, organic produce. And then there's ways to get by, so I'm not really panicking. And the nonprofit world is you're constantly going broke. Your job is to use up all that money. You're not banking it or investing it. So I have a couple of funders that are so wonderful and supportive that like they're the ones that say, when you guys are really in trouble, call me and we'll bail you out. And that happens, we go broke. But every time I do, I'm like, I'm sorry, we're busted and we need a bailout. And this person's like, yes. And I want to plug him because this person is amazing. Keegan Kuhn from Cowspiracy and What the Health, First Spark Media. If you don't know any of those things, please write or a mental snapshot. Take those. This person is amazing, doing incredible work, and he bails us out and keeps us running occasionally. And so I call him and I'm like, oh, dude, I feel like I screwed up. We're broke. And he's like, awesome. Every dollar you guys got in is gone, and I know you did shit with it, and that's great. And so how much do you need? And that's the nonprofit model. You have to change your mindset. Success and like how you it's managing a business, but so different, and it requires these adjustments. But anyhow, we get by on whatever we have, and we do as much as we can with that. And my job is strategic movement of this little bit of funding, and somehow I didn't expect it, but it's been working. I've been figuring it out. So I'm going to drop some big numbers. First big number is $64,000. That's how much came in last year. Most of that came in $2, $5, $10 at a time. I haven't written grants. I haven't approached ultra wealthy. I've had a few meetings. They don't go well. We're too small for ultra wealthy folks to think we can do something. Even though I rattle our data off and how efficient we are, I actually had a celebrity tell me, I'm going to spend more on a couch than you're asking for an entire year. How could this do anything? I'm like, do I need to show you the pictures again, or the data, the stats? Do we need to run the math again? And that meeting just sank, and I got $0 donations. So our network is, okay, everything is connected, right? I go like this. That didn't stop right there. There's wind moving and molecules and dust, and bouncing off that wall now. It's bouncing off of you. It's coming back towards me. It's going out. So everything is connected, especially when you're talking about ecosystems and in the environment. And when everything is connected, there's no such thing as irrelevant. So our fundraising, there's no such thing as a donation that doesn't count. $2 in our model, $2, focusing on turtles alone, will save 8 lives of endangered species animals. It'll bring in 12 eggs, and out of 12 eggs, about 8 will hatch, and those will get released into the ocean. And that is vital support for animals that are super, super in need. That's $2. We could find that right in front of this building, probably on the ground right now. Like, that money's available. So that's our network. That's how we survive. So that's where that 64,000 came in. We had a couple of bigger ones, which I'm super grateful. I am critical of the model of the ultra wealthy. I'm critical of this system we have and capitalism over aggressive in modern industrial capitalism. I'm super critical of it. But that doesn't mean that I think that the ultra wealthy are evil. But I think that wealth hoarding is kind of evil. And I think that the system that allows folks to accumulate that much wealth is messed up. And every time you have more than you need, it's because there is somebody or a bunch of somebodies who don't have enough. Fact. It's not magical, oh, you're special, here's more than you need. No, there's like an amount of resources that we have, and when you have way more than you need, it's because you've taken from somebody else. And if you travel outside of the States, in the States, you see it. Right here on the street, there's people paying $30 for dinner, and then there's people sleeping on cardboard 10 feet away. So that's the system that allows us to approach ultra-wealthy people and ask for $10, $20, $30, $40, $110,000 donations. And, that would be exciting. And I wouldn't say no, because we would get shit done. But, like, that model, it's messed up. So, like, I don't even really want to ask. The governments and the ultra-wealthy, I think they've had time to show us what they're going to do and show us what they're going to leave behind. So when we're talking about solutions in our orgs, in our culture, in our community, in our grassroots radical action that's saving the planet, and the animals, we need to think outside of asking for their permissions, I believe. And I think we need to think outside of asking for their support. Again, I wouldn't say no, because if they want to share, good, they should be sharing. And I'm going to be responsible with it, and our org won't screw that up. That's why I started this org, because I have faith that it won't grow to a certain point where all of a sudden we're about fancy offices and my fat salary. I'm 8 years into this with no salary. People give me shoes when I need new shoes. Like I get in the project model, in the funding, I get food and everything I need to keep this project running, which means occasionally, my iCloud subscription and a new screen on my phone, because I run this shit like through my phone. We don't need an office in every expensive major city in the United States. Like, that's infrastructure I feel like is tripping us up. So it seems like we're in this model where we think that success is huge and success is millions of dollars. But these orgs that have that going on, I just don't see what they're doing. I don't see what they're churning out anymore. And I've talked to CEOs of these orgs, and I've heard them say, I miss the old days when we felt like we were really getting shit done. And that blows my mind, because I'm like, you have all this funding. Just change your infrastructure around and change your models, change your priorities. We do it. Like, I don't understand. I'm not suffering. I lived on beaches I spent about 7 years where about 40 weeks of the year I was outside sleeping, camping on a hammock on the beach. It was awesome, and it was free. That's how I got a lot of this work started. I didn't have a bunch of money behind me. When I do a talk, a lot of times it's in smaller groups, in a more of a like tourists visit us on site where we do the sea turtles. Everybody wants to see that, and I can't blame them. And they ask, we get in little circles, and I do a little talk, and there's lots of question and answers. And there's like 4 or 5 really common questions I get. And I've realized that what they are is like the blocks that people have. One of the first questions I get asked is, are you a biologist? Nope. Not a day of school outside of a couple of photography classes that I really didn't even like. But I have 10 years of field experience now because I was serious about it, and I got down there, and I found people who would teach me. Now that I have 10 years of field experience, I could probably apply for honorary degrees and become a biologist, but whatever. We're doing the work. It's working. We have data to prove that we are saving lives. The hatch rate is healthy. The population is on the rise. We went from 0 hatchlings to 34,000 hatchlings on a beach. So degree or not, like it's working. But I see when people ask me that question, that's what popped up for them to do this kind of work, I've talked about the urgency, I've talked about the doability, but we still put obstacles in front of us, and that's one of them. I need school and debt, and no, you don't. I'm right here saying that. You don't. I'm not discounting that if some of us need that, because I have biologists that I call, that I message with, that visit us, that I treasure their expertise and their willingness to help, because there's a lot of stuff I don't know, and not anybody's going to know anything, so you have your network. So some of us should go through that, but like not very many of us need to. The other question is like, that band you used to be in, was it like, did you make like millions of dollars or something? Nope, don't have any money. But they see that. That's, in order to get active and do these results, you need a bunch of money already behind you. Was your family wealthy? Nope. We didn't struggle. I'm not claiming that, but they're not wealthy enough to fund an org like this. Like, that's not why I was able to do this. The other question I get a lot of times is like, or like, what rock star gave you the money? And here we are falling into that model again, where we're depending on this system that's kind of messed up, where people can accumulate this kind of wealth, and in order to get this work done, we need these solutions. No rock star has given me money. In fact, I've had some of the worst meetings I've ever had with famous folks that don't understand that we could get so much done on a little bit of money, and they just won't pay attention and won't help. I've had some beautiful people stand up and help, but that model's really, like I said, that's not who I'm trying to appeal to, and I don't think that any of us should be. If they want to share, that's awesome, because they should. And it's great that they're so comfortable. But anyway, these questions pop up, and it's because we're throwing out the reasons we're not doing this stuff. We ought to stop doing that, please. Please stop doing that. Because we all can. And there, of course, there's different levels of privilege, different physical abilities, financial situations, people relying on you. I got rid of everything. Now I'm going to talk about how I got the project started and what we've done. San Diego, California, there's this really cool raw chocolate company. I didn't have any money. I was living in a van on by choice. It wasn't hardship. I just wanted to travel, and I was able to work a little and then live very inexpensively traveling in this little van. And then this awesome raw chocolate company that we loved to buy in Whole Foods or whatever back then, and we decided to go around back one night and see what they threw away, because maybe there's a couple of bars in there where the label's broken or something, and it's like $5 a bar, so finding one in there would have been worth it. So we go in there, and boom, I don't know what happened, but they were throwing away samples or something. My theory is people were sending them unsolicited samples, and they had them cluttered up somewhere, and that day they're like, clean office. We found 80 pounds of cacao powder, raw, organic, Ecuadorian cacao powder, a case of cacao butter from Costa Rica with the customs label still on it, hadn't even been opened. And I know the sources. I used to work for a superfoods company for quite a while, and I knew where this stuff had come from, and I was like, that this is in the garbage is absolutely unbelievable. Like, why? And then there's maca powder and organic coconut sugar and all these, basically an ingredients list for an amazing raw vegan chocolate bar. A lot of them. So we took it and we filled up my van, and then first thing we did, we stopped in Delray, California. One of the Sea Shepherd boats was docked there, and we gave them half of our score to take out to sea, because they're like, chocolate is like on there. If you look at their donation wish lists for their boats, chocolate's always like first couple things. So they were like, what? We gave them a 40-pound bag of cacao. They were stoked. The rest of it, I made into took some ice cube trays and made a little mixture in a bowl while we were traveling, and every time we stayed at somebody's house, I made a batch of it up. I put it in ice cube trays and let it solidify. We had little mason jars of these awesome little raw chocolate maca squares. We went to punk shows and all kinds of other little events and sold them along the way for $1 a piece. Got 2 flights to Costa Rica from that money. Went down to Costa Rica straight into an animal sanctuary where we were going to volunteer in exchange, like I said. We saw people doing some work. They needed help. Work we believed in. We went down, offered them help in exchange for a comfortable place to sleep and some food. And yep, we went right into that. We got there. Okay, we set up your house. Where are you going to sleep? Porcupine enclosure, fenced-in enclosure, wood chips on the bottom, some enrichment like sticks and a couple things for the porcupines, a box where the porcupines spend most of their time because they don't really do much except for at night. And they're not really overly active anyway, especially in captivity. These were 2 injured that they couldn't be released. So anyway, they're in the corner, bed over on this side. Here's where you're going to sleep. We're like, well, not what we were expecting, but kind of cool. So a couple nights in a habitat with porcupines. Then we rented a house. Then learned sea turtles. Again, doing all this work, not talking about it, not asking for donations, not trying to get famous on Instagram, just doing the work. And then learned about the sea turtle stuff. Spent 4 years next to Montezuma, Costa Rica, next to a project there they do amazing work. And I met a guy that has been doing it for 30 years. And I did exactly. I'm not just saying what I think you should do. I'm telling you what I've done this. I stood next to that guy and I told him, wow, what you all do is amazing. I will work night shifts in exchange for beans and rice. I'm going to camp on the beach. You could camp there for free in paradise. Did that for 4 years. 4 years into that, he goes, you're done. You're out of here. Huh? Start asking for help, raise a little bit of money, and go start one of these because you could run one of these projects now. Really? Yep. Boom. He kicked me out, and nicely. I spent a year scouting locations and figuring out how to talk to people and ask for help and talk about what we were doing. It was like I had to come out of this mentality. Like I said, 10 years ago even, you didn't come out and promote this and ask for help. In fact, you wanted less people hearing about it because there was a lot of oppression of animal rights activists and environmental activists. I'm not saying that that's over, but the culture is definitely different. We want to get famous now. So how to change that? And so started asking for some donations, did like a GoFundMe. Couple grand came in, did some beach cleanups, continued learning about the sea turtles. Spent a year scouting locations strategy. I want to talk about strategy. I'll talk about my strategy, why we picked this spot in Nicaragua. It's a struggling economy, which sucks in most factors, but it means we can operate there very efficiently. We can get a lot of work done on a little bit of funding. Now, there's more sea turtles there than in most places that cost a lot more. On the beach we're on, the sea turtles nest 12 months a year. Normally, they only nest 8. So it's one of the only places in the world where they nest all year. And there's 4 species that use that beach. So I put data together on all that and was like, this is our spot. And the other factor was the poachers take all the eggs off. So you have 0 babies. So there's a chance to make a gigantic improvement in a place that's extremely vital. So found this spot, put up my hammock, started walking the beach at night, telling people, again, this org we had no money. Like I had a couple $100, but you can go on like $10 a week on groceries and sleep in a hammock for free. And then there's this super kind hotel behind where we have our hatchery in Nicaragua that I could go up for water and bathroom and coffee in the morning, whatever. Super supportive. So there's folks in your community that will help you get through too. Was sleeping in the middle of a bunch of nests. I have these really cool photos of my hammock. I don't have a slideshow or anything because I kind of wanted to make a little point there about let's be careful about how technologically dense we need everything to be, right? It's okay if I'm just up here talking. I hope to not use a computer. Maybe we can do stuff without that. So there's a little point. There's a hand up, yeah. Okay, so I'll talk a little about how the model works. The beginnings of it, again, like I said, there's a photo I could show you if I was using the computer, but I wanted to go a little less technologically dense. So came up with enough money to hire the first employee, poacher that I met. Here comes your answer. There's the poachers, every single egg collector, saying poacher sounds like a villain. It's real easy to vilify people that are doing things that are destructive to the environment. Now, we're not talking about Trump's forestation logging company or some crap. Like, we're talking about local folks who are struggling and poor, doing a little bit to feed their kids. It's super easy to vilify them. We went out and said hi, and here's what we're doing. We want to protect sea turtles. As soon as we have money, we're going to create jobs, and we have this idea of a rewards model, and we're going to imply that, and there's going to be a lot of benefits for this community. In the meantime, if we find a nest first, it's first come, first serve on the beach. That's if you're doing the competitive model. That's how the poachers work against themselves, is first one there, no questions asked, it's yours. That's how they keep conflict down amongst themselves. So we did the patrols and found nests, and I found quite a few nests. How much time do we have? I'm coming in to say I gotta wrap it up. Okay, how long? 5 minutes or something? Or? Well, not even. Okay. Well, okay, so I did a bad job because I wanted to talk about so much more. So I want to answer your question. there's a food trade for illegal sea turtle eggs, for sea turtle eggs. It's illegal. There's little or no enforcement. We work with the locals. We offer a reward system. We train them how to collect eggs so that they'll hatch with a healthy hatch rate normally, the gloves and the whole deal. And they bring them and turn them over to us into a hatchery that we have fenced off. We dig them into recreated nests. Depending on the species, 6 to 12 weeks later, babies come out. Someone looks at nests every 20 minutes, lets the babies go into the ocean. This happened at 3 o'clock this morning. I got messages. They send me data. Every time something happens, I get data messages. We track everything scientifically, every egg that goes in, every baby that goes out. So hatching was happening this morning. Last year, 34,000 sea turtles. 34,000 sea turtles. So, okay, well, I touched on enough stuff, and I hope the overall message is there. We need to change what success looks like. We need to change what we think is successful. I think successful is non-oppressive. I think it's positive for either the environment or others around you, and I think it's something that can continue. Now, if you apply those 3 characteristics to things that we call successful, don't think so. It's not happening. Even orgs, even our culture, our solutions, I don't think it's happening. So we need to break up into diversity is strength. These gigantic $1 million doesn't seem to be working. So diversity is strength. So let's work on small's okay, as long as we're getting work done. There's a lot of us that point at the beginning. So small is okay. Nothing is irrelevant. 34,000 baby sea turtles released into the ocean, 20,000 kilos of plastic garbage released off of beaches in cleaned off of beaches in Nicaragua, 5,000 hours of work created for people unemployed in Nicaragua doing things like planting trees, 3,000 trees going into the ground in this August that we prepared last year, 200 acres put into permanent protected status. The goal is a 3,000-acre nature reserve. It will happen. We just need the funding and people behind us. That nature reserve is going to connect 5 other protected areas with habitat corridors. So instead of 5 islands that can have food shortages or closed gene pool unhealthy animal populations due to inability to migrate, we're creating a solution. We're also rehabilitating a watershed, the source of a river on this piece of property. In 5 to 6 years, this river will probably come back to life with water. What I'm doing is listing off some of the things we did. I said we raised $64,000. We did all that. We gave over 100 meals a month away. Vegan, of course. We did vegan outreach and education work. We directly saved the lives of 76 cats and dogs just because we don't even have an official program for that. Everywhere we go, there's an animal in need, and we do something about it. Now we shuttle animals to the vets. We're paying medical costs. We're doing an official foster program. We're building a small animal care center at our house this year. We worked with folks on, we basically supported anti-fascist activists in the States last year, working to make the life of the Proud Boys organization difficult. 7 months of focus on anything and everything we could do to make their lives difficult. Organizing, a bunch of other people made some good strategic strikes. That organization dismantled. So we did anti-fascist work. We launched a campaign to protect the Tule elk north of here in Point Reyes National Seashore, 4elk.org. Thank you. It's a little stalled right now, but it's going to ramp up. The dairy industry rents 85% of that land. It's supposed to be a protected habitat. It's one of the most biodiverse habitats in the world. The Tule elk, I'm trying to go so fast. The Tule elk were once considered extinct. They were found out there. Now they're an endangered species. The dairy industry made a huge mistake and asked the government to kill off the Tule elk because they're eating too much grass and it's competing with the cow. We heard that. We're like, ooh, you guys don't realize how bad you just screwed up, because now we have this campaign. Don't shoot endangered species. That's obvious. Don't do it. Get behind that. There's a petition right now on 4elk.org. In the coming months, we're going to launch a police reform campaign. Point is, I think I've said enough. Hopefully that's an impressive amount of results. All of those are tangible, forward motion, untakeawayable results. I mean, nobody can destroy those. That's what we did on that little bit of funding. And this is what our org should look like. And when you ask the director of a CEO of an org, how much do you make? If it's more than you make, they don't need your donations. If they have offices in the 3 most expensive cities in the United States, I think they're doing okay. You might donate somewhere else. And then ask them what they did. If they stutter about what their results were, go somewhere else, please, with your donation money. So anyhow, thank you. I'm going to go because I don't want to use up an unfair amount of time.